Kan ik het nog? Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hello and welcome. And it's great to see that we're with this many people in the room, all packed in the back. I think that's always a good sign, right? So thank you so much for being here and welcome to this World Water Week session on preparing for an inclusive and action-oriented UN 2023 Water Conference. Now, this event today is dedicated to discussing on how we can make sure that this UN Water Conference is a true watershed moment and can make sure that we do it at an incredibly urgent time. Because I think every one of us has seen what is going on around the world with extreme droughts in some places and extreme floods in other places. So I think that definitely underpins the urgency of all of us coming here together today. So I actually want to start off by saying thank you, because I know that there are many sessions taking place in the building today, but you have chosen to be here today at this session and devote your time here. And I think that is a necessary and a beautiful acknowledgement of the urgency of discussing this topic. So thank you for that. Now, this event today is brought to you by the Republic of Tajikistan and the Kingdom of the Netherlands, who are also the two hosts of the UN 2023 Water Conference. So once again, a very warm welcome to everyone. Our speakers here on the first row, we have excellencies, the audience here in person with us in Stockholm, but also to the viewers online watching from all over the world. It's amazing to see you all. Now, if at this point you're thinking, I'm getting a warm welcome, I'm getting thank yous, who is this girl that is giving me all this praise? Well, to that I say hello. My name is Hajar. I'm a former United Nations youth representative for the Netherlands, and I'm a next generation keynote speaker. But above all, I'm a very delighted moderator because I get to be here today with all of you. And it's not just for any reason that I'm excited, because we also have a very exciting program for today. So if we go to the next slide, we can see that we will kick off very soon by two opening remarks from our high-level guests here in the room with us. Afterwards, we will have a short presentation on the UN 2023 Water Conference by our special envoys. And of course, we will have our amazing panel with the stellar guests that are present here to discuss a little bit more about the interactive dialogues and the 5 themes of the conference itself. But before we jump into this program, I actually want to turn to you, the audience, because I see many friendly faces here in the hall, and I'm actually quite curious to know who we have with us. And to test that, we have created a short Mentimeter that you can fill in. I see some people already pulling out their phones. That is a good sign, because if you scan the QR code over here, you should get a question popping up on your phone that could tell us a little bit more about what sort of organization you're affiliated with, what institutions you're representing. So if you could go ahead and fill that in, and I'd be super curious to hear more from you. In the meantime, it might be nice to see if we can get some people in the audience to tell us what they're organizing. Oh, I see it coming in. We have some government people, NGO. I see one youth. Is that person in the hall? Is it you? You look very young. Are there some people that want to share what made them come to the event today? Would you like to share that?
French.
Oh, you speak French.
Yes.
Okay, it's okay. What sort of organization are you from?
I'm from Madagascar. Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Hygiene.
Okay, cool. So we have somebody from the Ministry of Madagascar here. Thank you so much for being with us. Maybe someone over here, would you like to share what you're from?
From the government of the Netherlands.
Oh, no. I was doing my best. I was like, I'm not going to pick out people, but that's okay. I'm very happy that you're here though. And thank you so much for sharing as well. Cool. Now, okay, I see it coming in. We have some people from the government NGOs, but I'd say overall that we'd have, yeah. Oh, there is indeed Frans Rojas here. You're the financial institution person. I was going to say we need one to bump up. But thank you for sharing that with us. And we actually also have another poll that we want to share with you. And this one is kind of special because I'll explain why. This exact poll will be presented again at the end of the session. And the reason why we want to do it has to do with this statement. So I'll read it out loud for you. The statement is, the UN 2023 Water Conference provides us with a key moment, a watershed moment for the world, for the acceleration of SDG 6 and water-related goals. Now, you will see on your phone that there is a slider that you can use, and you can slide it accordingly to how much you agree with the statement. So if you fully agree, then you can slide it all the way to the right, and you can say, yes, we can achieve action altogether. But if you're thinking, this one, no, what are you doing? If you're thinking this is going to be the umpteenth conference on water, just another conference, I don't think it's gonna help accelerate action, then you can slide it all the way to the left. Although I must say, I cannot guarantee your safety if you do, because I see Hank shaking his head vigorously over here. Now let's take some time to let people slide this one. But I'm actually curious to know, maybe from people in the room, are you optimistic about the UN Water Conference? Is there somebody who would like to share, perhaps with us? Yeah, I see there. Okay, I will be walking over to you. Thanks, Hank. Hello? Hi.
Well, it is being presented and supported by the Netherlands and Pakistan. It is going to be in the United States. And so the other thing is too, is that New York is the biggest media market in the world. And I do believe that if we all come together, we can really achieve a very good outcome and a call to action to all of our governments in all of our communities.
Okay, cool. So you're quite optimistic then.
Very much so.
Okay, that's great to hear. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there another person who'd like to share? Yeah.
I do believe it's a massive opportunity. We have a window of opportunity. The world will be listening. And it is up to us all and the organizers to see what we can make out of it and get the world together to really radically step up the accelerated speed that is required to achieve our goals.
Yeah, definitely. So you say the momentum right now is the perfect moment to do it. Okay, somebody over there. Is there also somebody who voted no and who's like, this is just going to be, oh, now I'm curious. You're going to bring in the drama and the juice for today. There you go. I'll hold it.
Okay, thank you. My name is Juan Pablo Romero. I come from Colombia, and where I see that there's a field of opportunity in terms of communication. I was talking with somebody, I work in water, but I had to travel all the way to Stockholm to know that is going to be a conference on water. So I think that it's very important that we work on communication to generate awareness, to get the people's attention.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Juan Pablo. And I think it's good to indeed that you emphasize the need to make sure that the communication is good, that it's accessible for all people. I think the goal of today's event is that at the end, Juan Pablo, that you are on the optimistic side of the slider with everyone. But thank you so much for sharing, everyone. And I mean, with that being said, I'm curious to see where we'll be standing at the end. So maybe let's just hop right into the event. And to do that, I would like to ask forward our first high-level speaker, which is Her Excellency Vice Minister and Director General for International Cooperation of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands, Mrs. Kitty van der Heijden. Can we get a big round of applause?
Well, that's a lot of words to introduce a humble person in a big world that's facing big challenges. So let me first thank you, Hajar. I've known her as a youth representative, always energetic, full of energy, because we have a lot of work to do. And I'm incredibly proud and happy that finally we're here in Stockholm together as human beings rather than through a digital screen, because boy, that was one big health crisis we faced. And let's not forget that we are here, but that crisis is still working its way through poor communities that have very little health infrastructure. And if that were the only crisis, I would perhaps still be a little bit optimistic. But quite frankly, it's only one of those many crises that we're facing right now. Look at conflict. Nobody seems to talk about Yemen anymore, but I know what's happening in Yemen. Let's look at the Rohingyas. Let's look at Ukraine. And what's Ukraine doing to our world in terms of food prices, energy prices, fertilizer prices? That's one big crisis, conflict. And then, of course, you have an energy crisis. An energy crisis because prices go through the roof. But we also have a crisis because energy isn't accessible to many people. And we have a crisis because we have the wrong forms of energy in so many countries. Fossil instead of renewable. And of course, we have a climate crisis. You know, and I think in the past few days, what I've heard, floods, droughts, it's all getting more intense, more frequent, more prolonged. None of this really looks great. And then, of course, there is a crisis that looms beneath all of these crises, and that's a crisis of human suffering. That's a crisis of not achieving the perspective of a life in dignity to the people that we have promised that dream in 2015. And so for me, across almost all of these crises that to many people seem like disjointed and separate issues, they're not. They are connected by one thing, and that's water. They're connected by water, and that's something that we can recognize because you, here, us, we are the water people. You know, quite frankly, I'm amazed. I've been doing this job for quite a while. I see so many familiar faces. We are a little incestuous community of water experts, and that's great. And I love you all dearly. But with the water people, we're not going to solve the water crisis because we need the agriculture people, we need the energy people, we need the environmental people because we also need to protect wetlands, we need the health people to bring sanitation and menstrual hygiene. So we need a lot more than what I have in this room. Now, you will hear that I have a tendency for pessimism, and I'm a pessimist by science, I will admit. But I'm also an optimist by will, because I still believe we can do this. Now, it's just a few years ago, everybody seems to have forgotten the energy in the room when we were in Paris, and the world came together and did it. And 2015 isn't that long ago that all of us, the world community, agreed on the SDGs, where water is the linking pin across all the SDGs. It's recognized, we can do it, we have the collective will. Now it is about delivering that for everybody at the tail end of each pipe across the world. And we're not quite there yet. Now we know that water is central to the SDGs. It's central to human well-being. It's central to human rights and human dignity. And we need to do more. And one of the reasons that I'm so proud with my colleagues from Tajikistan to be co-hosting the UN Water Conference is that that will be the moment where we can finally discuss water across the full breadth that is water. So it is the midterm of something that our colleagues from Tajikistan deserve all the credit for, which is the UN Water Decade 2018-2028. And we're going to look at where we are. We're going to look at where we need to go. And that means really looking at water beyond all these lovely people here to those people that can also spell the word water without spelling errors, but don't know how to deal with it. So it is about agriculture, energy, and all the other sectors. It is about inclusion. It's also about inclusion more than what I've seen here. It was, I think, one NGO, maybe a few more, one indigenous community representative. If we are to solve the world's water problems, we need equitable, participatory decisions and solutions. So that means we need different people in the room than just government representatives like me. I don't know who was at the laureate ceremony yesterday. Remember that a Canadian laureate, what he said? People are inspiring, governments are not. Well, I saw a lot of government officials in this pillar. I represent government. I hope we can do a little bit better in the UN Water Conference with the energy that all you bring. That water conference also isn't about statements. The UN is very good at that. We need solutions, not statements. I also don't need more analytical stuff. I think we know what the problem is. We need to move from analysis to action and delivering on the ground. And so that means that the conference is not just a watershed moment to do the right thing, but for all of us to really think through, what are we going to do better, more, and different tomorrow than we did today? It's about voluntary commitments to make that dream work that we promised poor people, destitute people in 2015 of a water secure world, which means there will be food security, that there will be climate security, and finally, a life in dignity. Now, I know there's only one youth representative in this room and a former youth representative. I think for the rest of us, you know, the next time this water conference will be held, previous one was about 50 years ago, you and I will be pushing up the daisies, singing with the choir invisible. Yeah? What legacy are we going to leave behind in 2023 for the people that depend on us, which is the next generation? So together with our colleagues from Tajikistan, I'm incredibly proud of what we're going to achieve with you or without you, but with all the sectors beyond water as well. Thanks so much, Hajar. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love how you said this incestuous community. I say, let's make it a little bigger indeed and make sure that we have a good representation of all walks of life in it. Thank you so much. Now, I am also super delighted, and I'd like to give a very warm welcome next to His Excellency, the First Deputy Minister of Energy and Water Resources of the Republic of Tajikistan, Mr. Jamshed Shoimzoda. Can we have a big round of applause because the floor is all yours. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you. It's very difficult to speak after the two perfect ladies. Very emotional. And sometimes when I heard her speech, I think that she's not working the government. Yeah. But any case, it's a very important impact we have. Firstly, of course, it's my honor to be here. Tajikistan very far from here, but in any case, we're coming here to discuss the water issues. Just imagine that in my country, we have very mountain country, 95% is a mountain, and we have a huge water resource, 60% of the surface water of Central Asia bringing in coming from Tajikistan, but we still have big lake in the water supply. Just only 45% of rural area have access to water. That's why we know about the problem very well. We know about it, and that's why we was a country who have initiator of the 8th resolution of UN General Assembly in the water issues. And last one, of course, is water for the international decade for action for water sustainable development. Why we are bringing this decade? Why we are trying to bring the water agenda in the global level? Because we have problem. We're feeling that this problem will be increased. Because why? Because population increase, demand of the water resource increase, but the water resource will never increase again. Yeah, we can build more power station, for example. We can bring more, I don't know, agriculture, but we cannot create more foods, but we cannot create more water. It's very difficult. That's why the global agenda should be discussing the water is very popular. I mean, the attraction should be much more. Yesterday, for example, we are discussing about the climate, and yesterday when I have a speech, I say that I didn't print my speech because it's my contribution to the climate change. But today I printed. Yeah. It means okay, we're fighting, but the very important to be in the right direction. It's important for us to have the right direction. In the June in this year, we have Dushanbe, second Dushanbe conference, and during this conference, of course, we are discussing the implementation of the decade, implementation of the our targets in SDG 6, and of course, in your interview, I see that the figures was 3.7, yeah. Of course, Hank and Sultan may be more optimistic, but the analysis shows that we are not target this SDG 6 goals. We are not target. And this analysis during the Dushanbe conference shows that we need twice, for example. No. 4 times we should increase our actions 4 times to a little bit be near to these goals. That's why it's very important to bring us to discussing in the UN conference 2023. In this regards, of course, it's very important that we have what we're receiving in Dushanbe, which was indicated in Dushanbe Declaration, and which also called it from Dushanbe 2023 to New York 2023. And what was there? Mostly we are trying to have a big platform to discuss in the different level, not just only the government level, yeah, not just only in the financial level, also in the society, in the civil, in the NGOs, in all level, bring one common idea, focusing is a very important issues to discussing, to raise this question in 2023 in New York. And of course, we are thinking that what we are doing together with all is not enough. Sometimes we say that money talk, of course, it's important money, but sometimes it's important to have people on the land, starting from this in the land, and coming back to the government level. And that's why in that time we can bring all our idea to the one issues and get some more goals. It's also important to have some predictability. The people and the business and the financial should have some predictability of the money flow, of the commitments, and the commitments should be implemented. It's very important. We also very proud that we have that co-chair with our Netherlands friends, UN Conference 2023. Just imagine that this will be for the last 15 years first conference regarding water. We in COP26 we are discussing the water, and it was the first time when in the COP we are creating the water pavilion. Why? Because if you look to the climate, you understand that any impact of the climate change coming through the water, 80% of the climate change coming through the water. That's why it's important to have joint view on these issues. It's a very historical moment, but we don't want to have some meetings with just only some statements. As my colleague says, that it's important to have a statement and implementation, not just only have some presentation and so on. After that, I think that it's important to have maybe not too big commitment, but the commitment which will be really implemented. UN conference, of course, the most target of the UN conference is a midterm review of the action, decade of implementation of the water sustainable development action. But I think that also important in 2023, we consider the midterm review of sustainable development goals, and we'll be finally get the good answers for our question about the do we target SDC 6 or not. And my colleague also mentioned that SDC 6 is very important because the water, if you look to all another SDCs, you see that is very linked to the water. It's very linked. If you fall in the water, maybe I'm a little bit dramatized, but will we fall in most of the SDC. That's why it's very important to focus on it. And of course, it's a good opportunity to discussing, to understanding, to go finding the right direction and to make steps. We're understanding that the big steps sometimes very difficult to do, but sometimes the small steps, but in the right direction, bringing us to the good results. Yeah, and very important that these steps will be every day, not just only, for example, in the beginning and stop a little bit later. And I think that Tajikistan and the Netherlands leading as a preparatory process of this global event have been putting a lot of efforts and strive and make the watershed moment at the world. We are committed to continue our efforts in this direction, and of course invite all of you to join us in this process. We are honored to chair with the Dutch friends the historical UN conference, water conference, and its trust to the world, to community, to us, but also is big responsibility for Tajikistan and for Netherlands. That's why we're here. That's why we are inviting you to join us in this process. I think that our collaboration work with Netherlands, UN DESA, UN-Water towards the UN 2023 conference has shown that together we can able to do many things. For example, I just want to, last times in the end, I want to mention is that just imagine that two countries, Tajikistan and Netherlands, very different, naturally different, cultures different, from mountains and deltas, from source to sea, developing and developed, upstream and downstream, are collaborating to the one goal, and this goal is water. And that's why I think it's a good example for how the water can connect and unite. So let's be united towards the UN 2023 Water Conference and make it a watershed moment for the world. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Shoyinzoda. And I think you definitely indeed emphasized climate is water and water is climate. And it is fundamental that we make those interlinkages together. And I absolutely loved how you mentioned at the end the importance of coming together and working together as two countries. And that also makes me particularly excited about introducing our next two speakers, because I think they are the embodiment of good partnership. Look at this. This looks like a friendship collage. Can I please ask forward Mr. Sultan Shoyinzoda and Mr. Henk Ovink, our two special envoys. Can we get a big round of applause? Now, before we start, can I say one thing? I have heard from rumors, more than one rumor, that you guys do not just go by colleagues, but that you call yourselves water brothers. Is that correct?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it also, not only we call it, because that is always easy to say something, but we feel it and it grows on you. Becoming a family is beyond becoming friends.
Right.
And that is, we share the same ambition, as was highlighted by Kitty and Yamshet.
Yeah.
We share that same ambition, but we also share the challenges that come with that ambition. And you have to build trust together, to be candid, to say truth to power to each other, to be able to overcome the challenges.
Wow.
And we really feel this together.
Well, indeed.
Yeah, really. And it takes just only 1 year, I think. When we started our collaborative work, it was April, May last year, I think I mentioned that we were the colleagues, we were the partners. And then it will, the conference in 2023 will make us brothers. And it's done already, basically. We are brothers and we have the same voice everywhere. We can talk on behalf of each other everywhere. So thank you very much, Hank and Madam Vice Minister and all Dutch team for great partnership. We have really appreciate our collaboration. And we hope much that this example of cooperation will be followed up by the other countries. As Deputy Minister Jamshed Shoyinzoda mentioned, that the two countries with absolutely different nature, culture, history, economic and climatic conditions, we came together and we are doing this work. I think this is something that the countries of the world can follow up and bring the success to the UN 2023 conference in March and working then further. So
beautiful. I'll leave it to you then.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I think the background information already done. Your Excellency, Vice Minister and Deputy Minister Jamshed Shoyinzoda also already mentioned why water is important, why water is challenging, and why we need to act on water. So it's basically done, and I think basically water is our life. So let's start maybe with the next slide in the interest of the time. So a bit history. I will not talk about the 1977. I think I will leave it to Henk. No, because as Mr. Jamshed Shoyinzoda mentioned, Tajikistan was initiator of this decade. In 2016, it was initiated by Tajikistan, but UNGA adopted a resolution declaring the 2016 2028 as International Decade for Action Water for Sustainable Development. But just I realized, Hank, it was outcome of our collaborative works within the high-level panel on water. Yeah, that was, we did it together, basically prepared, and then Tajikistan initiated, and by the support of all the countries, UNJ adopted this resolution. Then in 2018, UNJ adopted a new resolution about the implementation of this international decade. And then for the first time, it was mentioned that for the midterm review of this decade in 2023, the UN will host the conference. So it was really big impact, I think, since already mentioned that 1977, the first UN conference. And then in 2018, it was decided 2023. And we realized that it's a good opportunity. It shouldn't be only because of the midterm review of the decade, but it should go beyond. Because historically, we missed a lot of opportunities basically since 1977, and a lot of developments, a lot of challenges now we are having, we are facing now, and we have ahead of us. So then water should be rise in more higher profile in this conference. That's why we started collaborative work, and in 2020, then UNJ adopted a new resolution about the modalities of the of this conference. So Tajikistan and the Netherlands were selected or chosen as presidents, co-presidents of this conference. UN DESA jointly with UN-Water playing the role of the Secretariat. And by the way, I also appreciate our collaborative work with our colleagues from UN DESA. Matu, where's you? Matu is here, Federico from UN-Water. Really, we appreciate and enjoy our collaborative works. So they are playing the role of the Secretariat in this conference, and we are working together to make this conference a big success. Now, Hank, if you would like just to add maybe just about 97.
When I was 10 and following the conference online, which was very much possible at that time, no. But the conference in 1977 set the stage for the ambition, and we're still following through. The commitments that were made in 1977 were no hollow phrases. We benefited a lot. And if you look through the report of 1977, they are still valid. So on one thing you can say we failed because they're still valid. Another thing that you can say we were very much right, already putting out this trajectory towards where we are now. With the SDGs, a lot of what's written in the SDGs you can find in the Mar del Plata Declaration. So it is a cornerstone moment for water we haven't capitalized on as a world. We haven't used. So I don't want to wait another 46 years. You know, I'll be 110 or something, so that in itself also will be a challenge. But I don't want to wait, and we don't want to wait another 46 years to make the same conclusion that, oh, we were right in 2023, but we did not deliver on where we were right. So 2023 in that sense is more than 1977, a pivotal moment for us. And it is not looking at others. Yes, it is looking at how we bring other sectors in, but it is definitely looking at us and how we are going to make those connections with all those sectors and silos in society and making bridges and building across the divide that we see in the world between the haves and the haves not, the young and the old, or experienced, I must say, and across all those sectors. So 77 reminds us, while it took 46 years to get where we are, we can't make another 46 years the next moment. We talked about this. Well, where your house is, Sultan. We were here, of course, you know, when you're here, looking at the lake. Yeah. So the mountains and lakes of Tajikistan to the deltas and islands of the Netherlands connect a full agenda on water. And that is beyond our partnership, showing that from source to sea, everything matters. That only a systems approach can work. And water, of course, is this grand resource for everything life, health, security, economic opportunities, women, girls, the most vulnerable first in our environment. That health is beyond a human health, it's planetary health. That water goes beyond agriculture, it is food security and dignity for all. That it is in the midst of climate mitigation, carbon sinks, etc., and adaptation, building resiliency. And Tajikistan and the Netherlands show that story. And therefore, the partnership also helps others to come in. We, not only the conference, but also our partnership is a platform to join us, because the last 46 years showed it is tough. This is not easy to overcome. So if we can do this together, we also want to lend a hand to the world to also join this effort to overcome this divide, which is so critical important. So in that sense, the partnership is also an example on how we want to do this.
And just to add this, we are not covering only the challenge from source to sea, but also through this partnership, we can show to the world community how the countries with different economical situation, developed and developing countries, are addressing those challenges with different economical, capabilities, let's say. So that is also important, I think, that to show through this partnership in the conference in 2023. So our vision, we already said our vision, our dream to make the conference a watershed moment for the world. But how to move forward, how to address and how to come to these final results. We selected 3 main principles: inclusivity, both in terms of the conference process, ensure vertical and horizontal inclusiveness, and in terms of the results, leaving no one behind. So inclusivity means involvement of all sectors, involvement of different major groups, girls, women's, youth, indigenous people, local communities, governments, UN institutions. So everybody should be engaged in this process, and not for the conference itself, but in the preparatory process already. So action-oriented, the most important point, I think, since the decade itself, decade for action, and it was mentioned also by 2 of our dignitaries today that we need action. We need action, and why it was also mentioned. Then our work, we are using this approach, in the preparatory process, inviting the governments, everybody basically, up to individuals to come to the conference with commitments for action. So we should be motivated by new actions, transformative and innovative, and cross-sectoral. A lot of discussions happened during this World Water Week. And Madam Minister, you mentioned also that we have to go beyond the water sector, because just talking around the water with water people, so it will not have an due impact, the impact we want. But water, it's in its nature, basic cross-sectoral. So you cannot achieve food security, even energy security, industrialization, urbanization, all those, basically all our life goes through water. That relates with water, depends from water. That's why the cross-sectoral. So we would like to bring not only water people, water sector into agenda of this conference, but also the others. The climate, energy, food, and others. That's just a visualization of our vision for more easier understanding of this process. But again, so this is the 3 main principles we are working together in the preparatory process, and we would like to use them also in the conference itself. Please.
Because of time, I speed up. We had many stepping stones where all of you provided input and beyond. We also know that the conference is not about a negotiation. We're not going to yellow text. There's a good and a bad thing about this, but we're not going into that. It is about, of course, the midterm review of the Water Action Decade. So we will provide this midterm review and look ahead. A summary of the recommendation, what's coming out of this conference. Well, hey, what's a summary? But it is these commitments that matter. And we said as co-host, which is not in the modalities resolution that was agreed upon, that is not enough. Voluntary commitments themselves, 1 million of them, and then what? We said we have to not only organize these commitments and bring them together and show what the scale is and the possible impact. We have to structure them across the themes of this conference. We have to list them from the very small scale all the way up to the ones that are institutional and game changers. Also, we want to support those commitments in the years ahead towards 2030 to make them not only successful and impactful, but where there is success that we can replicate and scale, because too often these transformative commitments stay pilots. And I hate pilots. Because you do a pilot and you go back to normal. The pilot sucks up all the energy and before you know it, you're back to the normal. But we need change. And because of that, these commitments that deliver change will seek and see replication and scale thanks to the support in this water action agenda. An action agenda that will bring it all together across the world, a school in New York or in Bangladesh, in Tajikistan or in Chile, providing the conference with inspiration and the action agenda, but also get validation because of that. There are many, many little actions that can be validated by such an agenda. And then, of course, the institutional commitments by us. And this is our responsibility. This is where the skin in the game comes. This is where we have to prove that we are worth as a global community, that agriculture and food and energy and climate and finance and private sector and young and experienced and academia and NGOs come in and join hands and say, this is what we will do. This is how we will do it. This is the funding that's supporting this. This is the road towards 2030 and possibly beyond. And we will stick to that promise and hold you accountable. This is where the mass will come. And then there's this top of the pyramid. And I was born optimistic. My activist mother, first female school director in the Netherlands post-World War II, and engineer activist father, taught me to never give up. They're long gone, so I hope they listen somewhere or look. Their optimism is in my veins, but the science sometimes and often tells me different. So I fight cynicism within myself and in around, but a game changer is tough because a game changer hurts. Because you have to go away from the vested interest and past practices and what you're used to in the past. And us politicians and policymakers and private sector and finance are not happy with that. So we'll aim for 1, 2, or 3 game changers, and perhaps that is that.
Yeah, nothing to it, basically. Perfectly said, perfectly explained. What is the water action agenda and what is our expectation? In terms of the water action agenda commitments, just to invite you to be committed, to come with commitments for actions which will help us accelerate our actions toward achieving SDG 6 and other water-related goals, and to build a partnership like Tajikistan and the Netherlands around these commitments, around this action, around the water. So about the program, as I mentioned, that we are trying basically to make the conference inclusive, not the preparatory process, but the conference itself. So it is basically the mandate of the UN. It's mentioned in the resolution. So the conference will include 6 plenary sessions where the member states will have a space for making political statements, basically, and the stakeholders also. There will be also 5 interactive dialogues. The theme for the interactive dialogues already shared. We presented it during the SDG 6 event in New York. These are water for health, the access to safe drinking water, hygiene and sanitation, human right to drinking water supply and sanitation, water for development, valuing water, nexus approach, IWRM. So then water for climate, resilience, environment, disaster risk reduction from source to sea, and water for cooperation, transboundary water cooperation, which is very important, but also cooperation between the different sectors, between the policy and science, between different approaches and across the SDGs, since SDG 6 water will help us to achieve the other SDGs, and water action decade itself, because it's a midterm review of the decade, and decade it has its objectives also, which is always almost the same, achieving SDG 6 and other water related goals. So, and there is a SG plan, action plan on decade. So it will be the 5th theme of this interactive dialogue. And then we have 5 pillars of the GAF, Global Acceleration Framework, SDG 6 GAF, finance, governance, capacity, data, innovation, and then the principle of the preparatory and the conference itself already mentioned: inclusivity, cross-sectorality, and action-oriented approach. So that is how the official part of the program of the conference looks. But in addition to that, co-chairs are striving basically to provide additional platform to different stakeholders to be heard on the platform of the UN 2023 conference. For that, we are going to organize 3 to 5 special sessions, very special sessions. So there will be an opportunity for stakeholders, member states, participants to organize their side events, of course. And then we are thinking also about the cultural events. So it shouldn't be just a conference for talk, but also it should be somehow the celebration of water in New York next year. And we can do it together again. So having some festivals. So, and the most importantly, we have the marathon. I don't know whether you know about the global run, which includes 200 marathons. The Australian marathonist Mina Guli, she was here basically joining us in a number of events. She already done 85, did 85 marathons, yeah. And she did, I think, a number here in Stockholm. So, and globally, she will 200 with involvement of 200 million people in this campaign. This is really good, I mean, the campaign around the water. And the final one should be in New York, basically on the eve of the conference. So that is our plan, the ambition of the co-chairs, jointly with Secretariat, really to make this conference in New York very historical, both in terms of the time dimension also, but about its impacts and results.
To wrap it up and go to the conclusion, there are a couple of dates important. Now here, the General Assembly in September, there is a President of the General Assembly moment in October. 25th, member states will decide on the themes, but the 24th is Stakeholder Day. This is where, this is like the last moment where the input that you have on the themes of the conference can be solidified and brought into the decision-making on the 25th. And the organizational matters for the conference will be decided too on the 25th. So the 24th and the 25th are important moments for us as co-hosts, but also for you to come forward with what you want on the agenda. And then we go to the COP, of course, in Sharm el-Sheikh, to bring climate and water closely together towards next year's conference and set that agenda. Now, we'll wrap this up. This is our process. We need you all, but also to bring your friends and family, your partners across sectors and silos to ensure that next year's conference is not wasted. That March is a moment of truth for us, but also, as I said yesterday, that April 1st is not our Fool's Day. That we don't look in the mirror on April 1st and say, we just lost that momentum. We did not deliver on the promise that the opportunity that we have, and that the promises we made in the past will not be amplified and catalyzed in March. So I'm scared for this conference, because how can a conference change the world? But I'm also hopeful by the partnership that we have. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we became brothers. Yeah. And please join us, follow us, be brothers and sisters for water.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's a big thank you to the Water Brothers, and also for sharing that. And I think especially indeed to make sure that on the 1st of April, we won't be April Fools on that day. So thank you so much for sharing that. And also thank you for especially emphasizing the importance of inclusivity, of including everyone. And that is exactly what we are about to do, because I am more than excited and delighted to introduce to you our panel that will dive a bit deeper into the 5 themes that we've seen earlier in the presentation. So I would actually like to give a very warm welcome to our stellar panel of today, consisting of Alex Mung, Head of Water and Environment Resilience at the World Economic Forum, Sareen Malik, Executive Secretariat, African Civil Society Network on Water and Sanitation, and the co-chair of Sanitation and Water for All. Then we're also delighted to be joined by Phil Duncan, traditional owner at Alluvium Consulting, member of the Gomeroi Nation and chair of the Murray-Darling Basin Community Coordination Committee. Thank you so much for being here. We'll also be joined by Dr. Hwirin Kim, who is the head of the Hydrology, Water and Cryosphere at the World Meteorological Organization. And last but definitely not least, we are joined by Frans Rojas, who is the chair of the Water Finance Coalition and head of the Division of Water and Sanitation at CAF, Latin American Development Bank. A big introduction, but also for a big panel. So let's give it up for them. You can come join us forward if you like. You can come over and join us forward. I'll bring the microphone because yeah, just take a seat wherever you like, because I'm actually curious. At the very start, we did the question where we asked everyone if they are optimistic or not. And I actually would like to do a quick fire round, just very rapidly with all of you to hear if you're optimistic and if you think that we can truly make the UN Water Conference a watershed moment. And Alex, maybe I can start with you if that's okay. I mean, you're the head of the water and environment resilience at the World Economic Forum, so you undoubtedly must have attended many high-level conferences. So I'm actually curious to hear from you. Do you think that this will be just another conference, or are you quite optimistic about the impact that it can have?
Thanks very much, and delighted to be here with everyone. So indeed, we do see a lot of conferences. Myself, I'm actually very optimistic about this opportunity that's coming up.
That's cool.
However, there's a but, only if we put in the work beforehand. Hank and the other speakers that we're talking about striving for that systemic change.
Yeah.
And I think that can be done, but that systemic change needs a lot of work and preparation and a lot of back sort of homework before we get there. So yes, but.
Yeah, yeah. I saw Phil nodding next to you. Phil, maybe if I can go over to you. You agree with Alex? Would you like to add something about being optimistic or not?
Well, Yama, in my language, that's hello. I am optimistic, but I believe that there is another principle missing in there, and it's cross-cultural. I believe that there's a perfect opportunity to have a greater uptake and appreciation of what I call our cultural science that's drives our cultural way of life, our connection to country. In my country, we are recognized as the oldest living race on this planet, and we've survived on the driest inhabited continent on this planet. And I believe that there should be a greater uptake of an opportunity to have an indigenous session, because we live in mirrors. Our cultural way of life are in cultural mirrors. And I've seen that through my sister Iselina De Silva from Colombia and my colleagues from around the Asian Pacific Rim. It is a great opportunity to give us that platform to use our voices.
Yeah.
We're going to be living in a world of shrinking resource availability, and our knowledge and our willingness to share our knowledge and have Indigenous people involved in the co-designing of what the future looks like. Just a bit of a political aspect. In my country, when I was born, my informative years, I was part of the fauna and flora as far as our constitution was concerned. I only became a human in 1967 after our referendum. So it would be remiss of me not to be forthright and ask for a greater support and collaboration to bring Indigenous people globally together at 2023.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, we can give an applause for that, right? A round of applause. Thank you. I think it's essential what you're saying, and it sort of also taps into what you mentioned at the very start, right, Juan Pablo, about the inclusivity of it. And as you said so eloquently, indeed, the protection and the knowledge that is within Indigenous communities has been responsible for protecting so much of the resources, the natural resources and life that we have. So it's vital.
Lastly, been waiting with first Indigenous delegate to attend this wonderful conference.
Yeah.
And meet a wonderful range of global people, but we can't do it in isolation of one another, nor should we.
Never,
Sorry.
Indeed. Thanks so much. Dr. Kim, if I could go over to you. Actually, before I start, is it correct, because I've heard this and I just wanted to check with you, is it correct that as of today you are officially appointed as the
No, I think there's some mistake. I can explain to you.
Okay, I was about to congratulate you, but
Thank you so much. I was already head of hydrological and water resources services division in World Meteorological Organization. But from today, our division become branch, which is bigger, and title has been changed, water and hydrology and water and cryosphere branch, which has become bigger.
Well, we can still applaud for that. So So it's not that you have a new position, but it's that the department sort of changed. Well, still
Yeah.
congratulating.
Well, thank you so
change
much.
is always nice, right? But
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you the same question. I mean, from your experience and perspective, I mean, it's been mentioned as well in the presentation, the UN Water Conference, the first one in nearly 50 years again. Are you optimistic?
Well, not 50 years ago, it's like
What are you
45 years ago, because what I'm saying is 1977, I was born. I don't want to reveal my age. I look much younger, but I was so surprised how our second conference is heading after 45 years, 46 years. Unbelievable. I was so surprised when I heard that fact. And actually, I'm optimistic because over the 40 years, we didn't have a UN Water Conference. Now it's a new chapter. For me, it's like a new start, new life. It's just the begin with our partners, with our colleagues, or the hydrologists, not only hydrologists, not limited, but now we're trying to make a broad engage with all our stakeholders and all other field, which our previous speakers already talked a lot of things. So I don't want to echo it, repeating again and again. But what I want to say that no, it is important to engage all the stakeholders and other colleagues, because water is not just related in hydrology or cryosphere, but it's related to agriculture, food, energy.
Right.
But the other things, what I want to say, of course, it's very important to have a high-level commitment and engagement. But the other ways, we should also go bottom to top, not only top-down approach. What I want to say that when I visited some of the community, I could hear what they are suffering, what they need, what are the gaps. So we should list the people who can deliver policymakers to move. So not only scientists, hydrologists, and stakeholders, partners talking, but we need to engage people to say what they need. When I visited some of the area which had big flood damage or drought damage, they said there's no food.
Right.
Or they worried about waterborne disease. They were worried about those kind of things, topic that I didn't think about. That's why we need to engage our partners, not just isolate or having the silos approach, but all together. That's so important.
And at different levels. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thanks. Thank you so much. Serene, if I could go over to you. I mean, Dr. Kim indeed mentioned it 46 years ago. Hank also mentioned, we don't want to have the conference now and then in 46 years say, oh yeah, we were right in 2023, but we didn't deliver. How do you think that will happen? Are you optimistic about the conference and what lies ahead?
I'm conservatively optimistic. Became more optimistic when our water brothers had their meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning, because I know they invited members of the public to give ideas, and some of the things that were being said were really music to our ears. And what was that? That the women were getting up there and saying, you need to put gender at the center. We need to put women, increase our visibility. We need more women, in the water sector. So I think, and I know His Excellency did mention first girls, women, and then the rest. Just in following some of the LinkedIn feeds as well during this conference, I do know there's one of our eminent panelists from another session that said, yes, great panel, but we have a problem with the diversity of this particular panel. So there is a realization that there's this 50% of the globe that needs to be included in the conversation, and I'm really happy to hear it. I know we'll talk more about it because they have come with a number of messages from various women, even until this morning. I promised to convey our messages. So there's a change. My concern, and it's good that Hank has really put the spot on everyone, is that let's move from lip service, ticking boxes to actual action.
Right.
Why? Because as we go along with this panel, let me tell you, we are going to be held accountable. And I know Kitty mentioned the issue of legacy. Hank, I know you're sweating bullets when it comes to in terms of who's going to hold me accountable. We are all accountable for what is going on out there. And I can assure you that the communities are really looking at us and asking us, will ask us for answers. We will be answerable for what is going to happen. So yes, optimistic because I think we're all in the boiler room right now.
But you're sharp on it as well. Thanks. Thank you so much. Thanks. Yeah, you can applaud for that. That's a good one. Yeah. And nice how you mentioned it. Indeed, it was mentioned by Ms. van der Heijden that we have to move from the analysis to the action. Frans, if I could ask you as well, what are your hopes and dreams for the conference?
Well, thank you very much, Dimi. I'm reasonably optimistic.
Okay, that's good.
But because the initiative is a good start, we could say just to stay quiet and do nothing and wait. So the initiative itself is promising, but also looking at this event as a milestone for a process, and we will see what's going on after the process. So I think it's very important to engage as most people, as you said, inclusive with different stakeholders, and try to bring concrete actions, as you have said, not only statements, not only great frameworks or plans, but concrete actions. So yeah, I'm optimistic.
That's good. I like that. Thank you so much. Hey, and we mentioned and we saw as well in the presentation that there are a couple of themes and topics that will be central during the conference. Let's just have it perfectly arranged that you guys all have your respective expertise linked to those topics. So actually, I would like to hop right into them because apart from the, I think, beautiful geographical representation that you guys represent, you also can speak on those 5 themes, which are water for development. We've seen water for health, climate and environment, cooperation and financing. And if we can tap into the first topic, which is water for health, I'd like to turn to you, Sareen, because of course, I think, if there's one topic indeed that has been on everyone's radar in the past years, and it is water for health. I mean, we've all seen with COVID, it's in everyone's mind. It's our first line of defense with COVID to make sure that we have access to water for people. Seeing and you also being familiar with this massive challenge ahead of us. What do you see as the main bottleneck for adequate access to wash that should be addressed ahead and during the conference?
First of all, listen to the people. You need to connect with what is happening down there. Before I came to this meeting, we, the Secretariat and our members, actually convened women from different communities, from the local, the informal settlements, from rural areas. And I asked them, what is it that you want us to go and tell these leaders? And honestly, we need help, we need water. And well, we were with them. Of course, they had their children that were playing around. And I had mentioned this in another panel where some of the kids had the white of the eye was black, distended bellies. Some of them were running off to the dispensary, because of one waterborne disease after another. But basically, what it boiled down to is access, reliable access 24/7. That's it. How we do it, I don't think they care. Whether we're going to explore PPPs, whether we increase the investments, whether changing the policies, civil society, partnership, multi-stakeholder platforms, it doesn't matter. The person on the ground wants reliable and safe access 24/7. And what is interesting, Hajar, is that it is possible. The pandemic demonstrated that it was possible. We saw our governments on the continent dig and drill boreholes overnight in areas where, it was never considered before. We saw free water being given. Did it have to take a pandemic for us to actually provide access 24/7? So it was a big disruptive force, but at the same time, there was a massive lesson in there that it is doable. But again, was it under the threat of, the entire population being decimated? Now, I know Kitty talked about, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and I think the health one is actually the pale rider. And the reason why I say this is because I dropped it like a lead balloon yesterday, but I'm sorry, guys, but water sanitation and hygiene is starting to become a matter of life and death. It is the truth.
Yeah.
You want to know what it looks like in a woman? Hookworms, which affect the pregnancy, stunted children, malnutrition, all kinds of gynecological issues. That's just one.
Right.
Notwithstanding, of course, spinal degeneration because of carrying jerry cans. And the list goes on, not going to school. It's terrible. Children not making it at until the age of after the age of 5. Children, babies born with HIV who need formula and cannot die because of contaminated water. This is really serious. So that was the message that was coming in. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not government, so I think I can say it as unfiltered as I as unfiltered as I want. So these are some of the issues, and that's from one group of women.
Right.
The amazing women that have come to this particular conference have said it. Investments, 56 billion shillings, 56 billion. Oh, sorry, that's the Kenyan in me. $56 billion is going to be availed to the continent through some of these investment programs. Can we please have 30% of that earmarked towards gender?
Right. Because
and youth, because there's already a fear that women are going to miss out.
Yeah.
And third, I think the conference probably, is it more carrots, more stick? Do we need to bash people over the head now in terms of getting some of these things implemented? Does that what it mean? Do we have to look at a little bit more aggressive tactics? I'm sorry to say that. Sanctions, start holding you seriously accountable for your commitments that you have made. Enough with the lip service, enough with the, like you said, Hank, those documents and, you know, the commitments and the reviews and yada, yada, yada. So I think that is,
it's vital.
It's vital. So let's just remember that.
Yeah.
Here you go. We know the pandemic learned us nothing in achieving the goals. It put it on the agenda again. It was like a big wash campaign, but not a wash delivery. So we need to know more than just putting the challenge on the table. I don't want the challenge again on the table in March, because we know I want ways forward with concrete commitments that we need to take action on. So we have to really boil this down to concrete actions and commitments. Otherwise, we're going to go cry pain again in March and nothing is going to be solved. So you have to bring it back with us to something that we can do, commit to, scale and replicate. Otherwise, it's going to be only a talk shop again about the disaster that's coming at us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And I think as well, what you said, I think what underpins all of it is perhaps also the perspective with which we look at things, as you mentioned, when we see things as actual crises and acknowledge them for what they are, all of a sudden there is so much more possible than we initially see happening. Let's step back into this point later on. But before that, I actually want to go over to you, Havirin, if that's okay. Because if we talk about climate and environment and its relation to water, I mean, the first Deputy Minister, Jamshed Srimzoda, already mentioned it, right? The linkage, the interlinkage between climate is water and water is climate. 90% of climate disasters are water related. So when we look at those facts and figures, what would you say is a concrete something that we need to keep in the back of our mind ahead of the conference and during the conference?
Thank you so much, Hajar. Well, as you already mentioned, 90% of climate-related hazard is caused by water, as you all know. And even though at this moment, as you see in the news, that there's a Pakistan severe flood damage, with 1,100 deaths, including 380 children, and also 1,600 people injured, and 500,000 houses damaged or destroyed, more than 2 million acres of cropped, and also 33 million Pakistan have been affected by this flood. That we know all this because it will happen. Already IPCC in 10 years ago, 2012, already expected and showed the result of analysis. More flood, severe flood, more drought will occur due to this climate change. But what we did, and even last year, and what I want to mention, because I make examples of Pakistan, it doesn't mean only least developed countries have suffered. No, last year, as you see, the German, we thought that a powerful country like German could be prepared earlier and have all the solutions. Even though the forecast was really great, and we had another session earlier and inviting German experts, what is the main causes of these damages, that what he says, forecast result was good and information was quite good, but it was not reached out to the communities or to the people directly. that is one of the issues that we can consider to our water conference to be successful again. But the other one also, like, so this is not just the limited member country, it's all around the world that we have to consider. And the other ones that, as we keep saying, action is important. We should start right now, taking action. One of the example, what I want to say, we are not just waiting until the solution comes or waiting to raising fund. But for example, in our divisions, our team, that we have several projects that I want to make an example as a Tajikistan. We do have one project supported by Caritas, funded by Caritas, which we're trying to make Tajikistan as a regional climate outlook and hydrological outlook forum in the Central Asia. So we can provide, actually Tajikistan Hydromet Service can provide and working closely with other countries to make how much the water available and will be available later, including climate effect, those kind of what we are working together. And also World Bank project we do have, also trying to make a good national mechanism with all other stakeholders, including energy, agriculture, and others. So those kind of projects that we are working. Still, we need the funding, of course. Still, we need more support from high-level commitment, but we should need making those kind of projects that happen in the country, in the region, in the basin, and also transboundary river basin issues that I cannot skip. But I know it's limited of time. I cannot talk more, but I will find another opportunity to discuss more.
But that is what you would propose as commitments to make to
No, well, okay, thank you for radio. So what I said is that take action, making more projects is important, but also what we need to do it instead of reinventing fuels, we have to see the solution around the world, because we already have many tools, many guidance, many available systems that we should collect all together.
Right.
And also sharing the knowledge. That is important. It's not just for us. It should be for all together. So knowledge sharing is also very important. And I also want to say the highlight, the last mile approach, including gender, including youth engagement, including vulnerability people. That is also important to mention.
Thank you. So you definitely want to emphasize indeed that, you know, going towards the conference, one thing for us to keep in mind to make it successful is that we don't reinvent the wheel, but we make sure that we actually collect and bring together what is already out there in terms of knowledge and projects and things going on. Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. Hey, and if we go over to the next theme, a water for development, when we talk about it, I'd like to go over to you, Alex, because you know, we see, and some facts and figures have already been stated, but also when you see the explainer video for the UN Water Conference, it is mentioned that 2.3 billion people still live in water-stressed countries. So you know, we know that we have to value and manage our water better in order to overcome that. So I really wanted to ask you, what do you see as main bottlenecks when it comes to water and development, but also if you have concrete and specific recommendations to make sure to be implemented such that we can make the water conference a success.
Thanks very much. So when I was thinking about the question, water and development, right?
Right.
It's such a broad one. It's big. When you look at the subheadings of it, you have valuing water, the water energy food nexus, sustainable economic and urban development. You can kind of think, yeah, I know someone that would fall in that, right? Because it's so big. Now, and I think one challenge that we've got is all of these things, they work in silos. We've heard it earlier on. They all kind of work in their own little groups, and they're not brought together. And even when they do, they kind of come at the problem with, this is my perspective from where I work. This is what I represent, and therefore this is what the input that I will give. Now, that's good, but it doesn't always break through the silo. It doesn't always come out with a solution, Hank, to your point. And so that's what we need to do. We have to get through all of that. One way, and it's more of a contextual thing for the conference, I do believe that we need to frame the conference in the current global context. The world has changed. We heard of COVID, we have Ukraine, we have all of the disruptions. And so water is a priority, but it's one of many. We heard from Kitty earlier on about the crises. We need to frame water as an impact multiplier and as a way to support their objectives in the current context. So for example, you can't open up at your emails or read a newspaper today without looking at decarbonization of industry, right? Electric vehicles, take mobility as one example. decarbonizing the sector. Let's look at electric vehicles. That's wonderful. I'm all for it. Where does water come in? They're probably not talking about water at all,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But if you scroll down and help them understand, wait a minute, where do you think the batteries are going to come from? Where do you think the minerals are going to come from? Where are we mining the minerals? Probably a water-stressed country. So let's work with their influential power to try and get back to the start. So one example is so context, global context. One is I do think inclusivity is absolutely what we need to do, but I do think there's an effort to be made on targeting and finding and bringing to the table, engaging beforehand, the specific influencers that can actually change the system, the systemic impact that I was talking about. One last specific example. As I was learning about COVID and hygiene, the response to this, there were a lot of organizations that were willing to support the response effort. These sort of wash basins, for example, made out of plastic, very needed in places of need. Now, unfortunately, many of these products are classified in trade discussions under general plastic. And that actually is a hindrance to getting these products to the places in need. They weren't classified as sort of critical safety products. If that were changed, which requires governments and trade negotiators, that would have actually helped accelerate the flow of these goods to places in need.
Just something as simple as
Simple as that.
classification. Wow. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Just a few examples.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And especially what you mentioned that, stepping away from silos, which is, I think, something that we all underline and we understand. But then, as you said it, sometimes even when we try to step away from those silos, we can still come together with this sort of attitude of disclosed of expertise that is not opened up to really learn from each other and share what is being known there. We're really tight on time, but Serene, I saw you nodding a couple of times when Alex was speaking. Just maybe in a couple of sentences, do you agree with what he was saying, or would you like to add something?
No, I absolutely agree with what Alex is saying.
Okay.
Don't worry, Elena.
Okay, that's good. That was also really short. Thanks. No, I saw you nodding. I was like, okay, there's definitely some agreement going on here. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Hey, Alex, you ended your point also about the need for inclusivity. And if we speak about that, and if I could go over to you, Phil, definitely when we talk about, everything that is going on, the cooperation, water for cooperation, especially, and making sure that everyone is included is vital. And if I can say again, we're so happy to have you with us all the way from quite literally the other side of the earth. So thank you for being here. And I wanted to ask you, from your perspective and from like an indigenous perspective, what would you say is a concrete and specific thing to keep in mind to make sure that the UN-Water conference is a success?
Finding the balance. I chair the Murray-Darling Basin Authorities Basin Community Committee. It's not an indigenous committee. It's farmers, irrigators, green groups, local government. And, it's a 1 million square kilometre basin. And the demands on that system by industry, farmers, irrigators, I believe we need to look at how we can change our language, compromise. That means we've got to give something up. I think that balance is a better word to use. Issues divide us. Challenges should unite us. We have incredible demands on a system that can't meet those demands. And it's the challenges I pose to industry. And, the 2023 conference could be a very platform for us to share our knowledge that I come back to, but finding the balance, because water fit for purpose, for everyday life, for quality of life, for longevity of life, for a cultural way of life, is something that we should not be dissuaded from moving. That should be paramount in our minds. And then, water should be the very thing that connects us and bring us together to look at what the future looks like through tomorrow's generations' lenses.
Right. Hey, and you mentioned changing our language. If you would take that and you would look at the UN-Water conference, what would that look like? How can we change our language as well to make sure that we can bring as much forward as we can with the UN-Water conference?
Good question. Our willingness to sit together to look at where we can find a balance through the intersecting needs of industry and, more importantly, community. Industry will come and go, community will stay. And we need to look at the long-term sustainability and resilience of those communities, because that's where tomorrow's leaders are going to come from. And that should be the very flat platform that we should spring forward from, on inclusion and respect. But finding a balance, not just in Australia, but globally, that should hold us in good stead to go into the 2020, those thoughts.
Thank you.
Should be, yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing that, those insights with us. Frans, if I can go over to you for the very last question, which also links to a theme that is cross-cutting through everything, financing. And I mean, it was already mentioned as well by the First Deputy Minister, Shongzoda, that, you know, it's not just a double, it's not just a triple, it's a quadruple effort in terms of also financing that we need to actually be able to bridge the gap that currently is there to be able to provide access to water. What would you say from a financing perspective? How can we make sure that how can we make sure, and what can we do and change as a possible commitment with relation to financing for the water action agenda?
Thank you. Not so easy question, but let me just start saying, but what we see is that finance and governance are two sides of the same coin. I mean, you need governance to promote and to conduct policies, reforms, modernizations, and to implement them. And also you need governance, good governance to implement the actions. So in terms of financing, and everybody knows in different regions, we are off track to achieve SDG 6. Latin America, where I'm working, it's clear. We have conducted studies saying that we need to triple the investment of the current investment we are having now. And we should wonder that, as many people said, we're not in the same world. I mean, countries are under pressure for recovery. DFIs like CAF and others have limits as well, and ODAs as well. So where can we look for other sources of financing? So we have to have a broader vision on that, and we have to improve or better risk and return profiles, especially for private investors who want to attract private investors. That's the arena of public development banks, and also the private investors could be an alternative, not only the climate funds for that, but we have to elaborate and to have our task in terms of reducing the risk profile and improving the return on that. But we also have to try to work on project readiness, for instance, because we have seen that governments are not keen to invest in pre-feasibility studies, bankable projects, or others. So when you want to implement, and I'm not talking only about financing, but the readiness for projects, we can't find bankable projects. So I think we need to invest. CAF, for instance, has a facility for pre-investments, as well as the African Development Bank and others, but we need to do more. And on the governance side, because it's very linked, we have to improve the enabling environment, the value of water that we have been talking several times. And we are talking about the value of water, for instance, we have to eradicate the idea that we have abundant water. We used to say in Latin America that we have 30% of the world water availability. Then when you are talking about circular economy, it says, well, why? We have abundant water. So we have to promote a paradigm shift in terms of circular economy, and also the institutional arrangements. We have seen that in the water sector, it's very fragmented. So we need to work. For instance, we have many water utilities in Latin America, and it's very difficult to become sustainable, to become credit-worthy if they are very fragmented.
Right. So actually, it taps into the point that Alex mentioned about breaking away even within that sphere from silos and bringing together what is out there. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're tight on time, but we would like to do a couple of questions from the audience. So maybe, Evita, do you want to do the microphone for me? Thank you. So is there anyone who would like to ask a question to our panel in here? Yes. Go ahead. Yeah. Shall I hold it? I'll hold it.
Thank you very much. I thought she was the first person. Now, I was expecting that it's a comment more than a question, that when dealing with one of these topics, you would be able to cover and isolate the importance of good governance on water throughout the world. Because water is a very sensitive matter. It's a very emotional matter. I don't know anything else. Some of the, but that's where emotions and sensitivities are packaged.
In the governance, you mean?
So it's important that there be very, very reliable governance on water to cater for those sensitivities.
Yeah, maybe either Henk or Sultan, I can ask you, is there, when it comes to governance, how will we be dealing with the topic of governance within the UN Water Conference? Yeah.
So in many ways, so the themes of the conference as highlighted, perhaps you can go back to the themes. Yeah, here. So we have 5 themes, but they're backed in a matrix by the accelerators of the global acceleration framework and the principles of the conference. So there's a formal answer to this. Governance cuts across all these themes. It's about the formal and the institutional, as well as the informal and cultural. Because governance is not only what we arrange, but also what we don't arrange. What is outside of our institutional systems. And that also means that cross-sectorality and inclusivity are about governance. Because accountability and how we reach out and make sure that everyone has not only a voice in the preparation, but at the conference and beyond in the implementation, and how implementation actually works on the ground is also about governance and increasing. And then cooperation is here too, highlighted, which is about transboundary, as Sultan talked about it. And if there is a country that knows everything about transboundary cooperation, it is Tajikistan. More than 65% of all the freshwater in Central Asia comes from Tajikistan. So without good collaboration, that would be a real challenge. But with good collaboration, water becomes an asset for security in that region. So governance comes back also here. So in many ways, formal and informal, institutional and lesser institutional inclusivity and cross-sectorality, public and private, it comes back. And it doesn't mean that it then works. So if it's on the agenda, hey, you know, that's the cheapest thing you can do. Put it on the agenda. The question is, what are we going to bring to the conference to make talking about governance also acting on governance and governance questions? Because across the world, this is where we fail. And the accountability is not there. And the transparency mechanisms are not there. And rule of law is way out of sight. And inclusivity, you know, is a word on a shelf, but not in practice.
Thank you so much. And also thank you for the question and a clear answer. And I think definitely a good note to end on, in the sense that we need to stay sharp on it. We can take one more question from the audience. And I see that over here, there is a question. Shall I give it to you?
I will be translating from Spanish to English. So, Isolina.
Mi saludo de cariño, de todo corazón, a todas estas bellas personas que hoy tengo la dicha de acompañar.
So I salute you from my heart to all these beautiful, wonderful people that today I have the joy of joining. Yeah.
Thank you.
Esto ha despertado una gran ambición para mí, porque vengo de un pueblo, de unas tierras donde realmente tenemos una problemática muy grande de agua.
So being here has sparked a real joy and ambition for me. I come from a land that has a very intense water problem, water issue.
Verlos a todos juntos aquí es una gran esperanza que nace hoy en mi corazón, la cual voy a llevar ante mis hermanos Guayú todo lo que he escuchado de las grandes ayudas que en todo el mundo están haciendo hoy acá, pues el aporte que estoy escuchando, la posibilidad de ayudas para nosotros.
She says that witnessing this, all the plans, all the actions fills her with hope, and she wants to bring this back to her brothers and her communities, because it's not only them, the YUs, who have these challenges, but it's also something that is around the world.
Les quiero hacer una invitación.
I want to make an invitation for you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Que salgan de su emporio, que caminen o envíen a personas que puedan mirar dónde realmente están las grandes necesidades, dónde realmente ustedes pueden apoyar a todos los que estamos necesitando de ustedes.
So Iselina wants to make an invitation to us all. And she says, I invite you to get out of your emporiums, she said, your offices, your places, and walk the path, go to the territories and talk to the people and see the real need, but more so the real impact that you can make. And I want to echo that, because many of you are carrying a big, big, big responsibility, and coming to the territories, listening, as you said, helps you get that extra strength if you put faces to the people that are not only receiving, but also sustaining and delivering, and knowing and have known for many, many years now how to survive, how to take care of our resources. And yeah, that's our invitation.
Thank you so much. Wow. Wil je de mensen meten nog? Ja, echt? Dan is het. Okay. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias, Iselina. I think that is a beautiful note to end on, and I think a beautiful message to take along with us. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for being here with us today and for sharing everything. It was truly our delight and our honor. Can we get one big round of applause still for our panel and all guests today, all our speakers, and for yourselves as well. Thank you so much. Thank you. And until we meet again.